Listen, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that there's a lot of things that I really want nothing to do with anymore in life. I just don't have time to put up with it anymore here, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Well, what are a few of the things that I no longer want anything to do with? Single-ply toilet paper, a diaper blowout, staying up till 2 a.m., all-day music festivals, other parents at the park, a used 2002 Kia, algebra, pants, slow Wi-Fi, running, even if I'm chased, not into it anymore, water, unless it's an ingredient in soda or beer, hiding a fart from my wife, alarm clocks, PG movies, Miley Cyrus, $10 for a sandwich, trying to find clothes that match, and drafting the 2 wide receivers that I have in this video right now. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there, and today talking about them ball catchers. That's right, a few wide receivers that I will not be drafting here in 2020 fantasy football, and I got a pretty good picture painted as to why I will not do that. Now, I did one of these videos about a week ago on the running backs. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you head over to the channel. I got a few big names that you're going to want to avoid from the running back position also, but like always, the likes on these videos really help us out. So if you can take a quick second, hit that like button. Let's share this with as many people as we can, because I know you're not going to tell your league mates about it. We see that in the comment section all the time. So help me share it to everyone else, and we'd greatly appreciate it. And the first guy we're going to be talking about, a wide receiver that I won't draft, it's AMARI Cooper, wide receiver, Dallas Cowboys. Ah, yes, the polarizing player that is AMARI Cooper. The dude is like Harry Houdini when it comes to fantasy football production, because one week he's there, next week you're like, where the hell did he go? He just completely disappears. Talent-wise, I have always given credit where credit is due, and AMARI Cooper is a huge talent. I'm not taking anything away from him there. He's had at least 72 receptions and 1,000 yards 4 out of his last 5 seasons, and he's had a career year in 2019, last year, with 79 catches, 1,189 yards, and 8 touchdowns. But he hasn't had more than 4 100-yard games in a season since 2015, where he had a whopping 5. In fact, in 2019, 585 of his 1,189 yards came in just 4 games. That's 50% of his season-long production in just 4 games of the season. Okay, well, maybe it was just a bad year, right? Let's not count that one against him. Let's go back and look at 2018. What's that you say? He had 641 yards out of his 1,005 total in just 4 games again? I mean, that's worse. It's almost 64% of his season-long production in only 4 games? Crap. Well, all right, maybe he's had 2 tough years. Let's go back another year. Let's look at 2017 now. I mean, that season, he only had 2 games over 100 yards and only had 680 yards total on the season. However, in those 2 games, he had 325 of his total 680 yards on the season. All right, crap, I give up. Dude's inconsistent on a per-game basis when it comes to receiving yards. I can't argue for him there. Well, maybe he can make up for it in volume, right? What's that again? He only had 79 receptions last year. 33 of those came in those 4 100-yard games. So that means for the rest of the season, he only had 46 receptions and 600 yards over the other 12 remaining games. That's an average of like 4 receptions and 50 yards a game. That doesn't sound top 10 to me. Not exactly earth-shattering by any means. It really doesn't help the fact either that he had 8 dropped balls in 2019. That is 6th most in the NFL. So that leads to the bigger argument that people want to bring up all year long this NFL offseason. It's the juiciness of AMARI Cooper moving to the slot. But I mean, where does it say anywhere that that is going to happen? Like anywhere. It doesn't. It's people making things up to try to get the juicy stories. I mean, people have been talking about it since the drafting of CeeDee Lamb. But are we really going to be believing those clickbait links that have no proof whatsoever that Amari Cooper is solely going to the slot? I mean, why can't CeeDee Lamb take the majority of the snaps out of the slot? 42% of Lamb's receptions in 2019, his last year in college, came out of the slot. He also recorded 6.11 yards per route run from the slot, which was the best among all college wide receivers. And out of everything we've mentioned so far, I've yet to even bring up Michael Gallup. I mean, last year from week 10 on, Gallup actually out-targeted Amari Cooper 67-62, and at times Michael Gallup looked great. Now coming into his third year, he could take another step forward in this offense. The schedule doesn't line up too well for Cooper either. I mean, he'll have potential matchups going up against Jalen Ramsey, James Bradbury twice, Patrick Peterson, Darius Slay twice, Marcus Peters, Richard Sherman. Should I continue? I mean, none of these matchups really help. I agree. Amari in the slot sounds absolutely awesome. But I'm not buying the fact that he doesn't split snaps out of the slot with CeeDee Lamb majority of the year. Cooper is currently right now wide receiver 9 in drafts. I mean, that's the exact same spot that he finished last year in the overall standings. I just can't assume that he either duplicates or improves on his career year last year. Personally, I would prefer Kenny Golladay or DJ Moore at a similar ADP than Amari Cooper. I'm just not buying it right now. I don't want to guess on a weekly basis which Amari Cooper actually shows up. The guy who's going to come out there and catch 11 balls for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns, or the guy who's going to come out and get 2 targets, 1 catch for 4 yards and completely disappear majority of the season. Remember, the talent is there, but it comes in bunches and it's not consistent enough for me to trust any year, much less this year in 2020 fantasy football. All right, so as we continue this show talking about guys who struggle catching their balls, it's time for me to bring up our sponsors here for the year. Yes, they've sponsored us the remainder of 2020. We need to show them some love. It's manscaped.com. So if you're looking to freshen up your boys a little bit, the summer months are here. Swimsuit season is upon us. Make sure you don't look like you have Harry and the Hendersons in a headlock the next time you're sitting around the pool. Head over to manscaped.com. Use our promo code HEADLINERS, all caps. Get yourself 20% off your order and free shipping. Like I said, take care of your boys here in the offseason. A lot of products to go out there and make you look your best. Once again, they are sponsoring us here for the 2020 season, so make sure you show them some Headliner Nation love. Now, we're going to be talking about our second wide receiver that everybody's all over this year, right? They're buying the hype from 2019 here in 2020, and it's DeVante Parker, aka Fantasy Bigfoot of the Miami Dolphins. I mean, DeVante Parker showed out in a big way to end 2019, right? From week 10 on, he compiled 76 targets for 44 receptions, 802 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So what changed all of a sudden for DeVante Parker? What switch was finally flipped in his NFL career? I mean, do we really buy him this year based off of 8 games in his entire career? Because before that, he really wasn't somebody that you could ever count on. That's where he got the nickname Fantasy Bigfoot from, because he would just make random appearances where people would see him. I mean, before 2019, DeVante Parker only had 4 games in his career with at least 100 yards receiving. Then, he had 4 100-yard games just in the last 8 games of 2019 alone. I think we can all agree, though, that the 2020 Miami Dolphins, they're going to be a little bit better than the 2019 Miami Dolphins. Miami was constantly trailing and forced to throw the ball every quarter of every freaking game they played in last season. Their defense gave up 6,364 yards. That's third most in the NFL. Teams were just having their way with the Dolphins. That led to Miami having 615 pass attempts in 2019, which was 6th most in the NFL. So why did Parker pop all of a sudden? Right, second half of 2019, he just looked like a different player. Well, the injury to Preston Williams was one thing. I mean, that really benefited DeVante Parker. Preston Williams averaged 7.5 yards per target prior to his injury in 2019. And you can see the immediate target bump that went to DeVante Parker because of it. Prior to Preston Williams' injury, DeVante Parker had only one game with 10-plus targets. After the Williams injury, Parker ended up with 6 games of at least 10-plus targets. 733 of his 1,202 yards came after the injury to Preston Williams. That's the last 7 games of the year. But at the start, we talked about this team as a whole in Miami, right? They're going to be better in 2020. The defense is very much improved. Key additions of Shaq Lawson, Kyle Van Noy, Byron Jones in the secondary, that improves all 3 levels of the defense. Does the improved defense maybe keep games a little bit closer? Of course they do. And closer games lead to less pass attempts and more rushing. How do we know the Dolphins want to get to the point of running the ball more? Well, just look at what they've done this offseason. They've brought in Jordan Howard. They brought in Matt Breida. Way better than what they started with last year. And Kalen Ballage. You remember that dude? He sucked. They also brought in Ted Karras from New England and Eric Flowers from Washington. They spent 3 picks in the first 4 rounds of the NFL draft on the offensive line. The run game is going to be present in Miami here in 2020. I'm not taking anything away from DeVante Parker. The kid shined when he got the chance last year. But the possibility of fewer targets, less throwing as a whole, and the price tag that's inflated because of just 8 weeks of last season, I can't do it. Look at a few of the wide receivers that are right there around DeVante Parker right now. Robert Woods, DJ Chark, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. I don't know about you, but I would rather take my chances with any one of those other names than DeVante Parker. Now, he is talented, right? I think him getting away from Adam Gase is a huge plus because Adam Gase just kills potential in players. We're seeing it in New York, right? He has a hard time with some of these players, and now that a few of these players have got out from underneath Adam Gase, they're starting to shine. But there's a little bit more to this picture of DeVante Parker than just the end of last season. Make sure you don't overpay the following year when there are some other conditions that maybe led to that little bit of a second half breakout. Now, I am off the DeVante Parker bandwagon. I will not be owning him this year. I'll let somebody else take that chance with that Miami Dolphins wide receiving group. Like I said, with the likes of Robert Woods and DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, I can't pass on those guys to gamble on DeVante Parker. But those are 2 guys that I will not draft here in 2020. Myself and Kyle, we're going back and forth, and we're starting to drop a few of these bigger videos that we do on a year, the do not drafts, the must avoids, the must haves, the must owns. Those are our bigger videos of the year, and we knocked a lot of those guys out of the park last season. So when we do these deep dives on players, make sure you take into consideration all the information provided. We're not just giving you an opinion and saying, I don't like the guy. We're giving you the reasons why. We're painting the entire picture so you can make that decision on your draft day. But we want to stay interactive. That's what we do over here. So make sure you leave those comments down below. Let me know what you think about Amari Cooper and DeVante Parker. Will you be owning them in 2020 fantasy football? Maybe you're like me and you're like, nah, Jake, I'm out. I'm passing altogether on both of these guys. No, thank you. I'll go look somewhere else for the wide receiver position. Leave it down below in the comment section. The draft guide is out. If you're interested, it's available. thefantasyheadliners.com. It is flying off the virtual shelves. Very, very pleased with the feedback that we're getting from it. A lot of people loving all the information included. So make sure you go check that out. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you later.